So Trump is in control, and that is still very apparent right now in the Republican Party. He also added 82 immigration judges to deal with the illegal immigration that is going on. And I have a cool personal story about immigration into America that I want to cover. And then some news hits close to home with someone in San Diego getting beat up, and fatally beat up, in fact, for liking Trump, for really just liking Trump. And that was, he's a little bit eccentric, and we'll cover it. He's unfortunately on his way out as we speak. And finally, in some very sad news, Tulsi Gabbard is out as DNI, and it's honestly kind of sad because she's one of the most popular people that they have in the cabinet. So we've got a lot to cover today as we go into our Friday and football Memorial Day weekend, and maybe I'll have a special for that. We'll see. It depends how busy we get. Hi, I'm Caleb. Welcome to The Ripple Effect, where I try to go behind the headlines to show you the impacts on your life and instead allow you to have some kind of impact in what you go through every day and for your family in your life. Let's go ahead and get into it today. So, first off, there's been a major turn of events with Massey being kicked out of his primary. Now, he lost his primary to almost 10 points. He actually lost it with 9 points, a little bit over 9 points. But here's the major thing that was covered. I thought this was interesting because a lot of people were debating on this, and there's actually a clip that Michael Knowles played today of Sean, I forgot what his name is, and Nick Fuentes talking about how Trump wasn't going to be able to kick Massey out. He wasn't going to be able to accomplish it. And really, if Massey did get pushed out, it was actually the Jews. And there was a great case in point made, and I think this is very important to note, that Trump does control the Republican Party as it stands still, because almost every single case where he supported the one person versus another in a Republican primary, the person that Trump supported won. And why is this so important? Because we're being told by all the young people out there, we're being told by the Nick Fuenteses and everyone else out there that it's okay, Trump doesn't actually control things, MAGA's not him anymore, MAGA's moving away, MAGA's doing its own thing, and it's a scare tactic to get us to try to get us to surrender to them. But it's not working, because one thing is true, and this is always true, that the right will always win. And I'm not talking about right versus left. I'm talking about God's right will always win until it's his time for us to not win, and then hopefully won't be here on this earth. But that's not the point. We and the truth about what we believe will come out and should come out. And a lot of these people, this is actually an interesting conversation I had, and I'm tying this in because I think this is very important. But I had an interesting conversation with a young couple. I talk about how they believe a lot of stuff from Nick Fuentes because they watched a lot of his 1-minute clips, and which is interesting because I had seen some other young people that believe the same thing, where because everyone's on their phones nowadays and they want to do it from on their phones, and they want to do their quick videos, their quick watches, the swiping. I've been working really hard, and if you want to improve your brain, work really hard on not doing that. Find full videos. If you need a distraction, and I understand because I need distraction sometimes myself. Watch full videos. Do not watch partials. Do not watch shorts. It'll help your brain. It'll help your focus. And then hopefully you can wean off of that and start doing more books too. I'm actually working on doing several books right now. Now, all that to say, they've convinced us, and they've tried to convince us through all that stuff that Nick Fuentes is great, and so then they bolster him, and then he comes up with these things that we need to stop supporting MAGA, or MAGA doesn't belong to Trump anymore, or stop supporting the Republican Party and actually vote Democrat, which is, I guess, is what Nick Fuentes wants to do now. And a lot of people believe it because they got sucked in with some of the truth that he was giving. He gave a little bit of truth, and we give a little bit of truth here, and we say it vehemently and excited, and he would just be all kinds of stuff going on. But in the end, the truth about him is coming out, and he's going downhill, and that's a very good thing. Additional to what Trump is holding in check with the Republican Party is the fact that he actually appointed 82 new immigration judges. And this is extremely important so that you understand. There is one thing that we have on our side, and that is this, that the Democrats almost never, ever, 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 ever want to shrink the size of the government. So adding in these judges means that it will have an impact beyond him into later on times when, even if it's not a Republican in position, they'd have to go out of their way to remove these judges to actually make it less effective. to handle illegal immigration. And I think this is really, really cool and important story I wanted to tie into this. You don't have to be an illegal immigrant in our country. And even if you are, there are so many options to doing things the right way. In fact, I got the pleasure and the joy of last night being able to go to a pinning ceremony for a new nurse. And this lady was a lady that we got to meet when we first came out here to California. And she was working on her citizenship test. And I remember the questions and the things that they were going on, or the facts that she thought were interesting, like how many Supreme Court justices we had. And we were kind of joking at the time of how many Americans probably be able to answer these questions, or like who George Washington was, what number was this president and that president, and all these interesting details and stuff. And that was, 12 years ago? And then to see her go from that to now being a registered nurse, it's such an impressive feat in America, and it's a feat that only can realistically only be truly multiplied and replicated in America, where we are the land of opportunity, where there are jobs available, where there is a place where if you do things the right way, we are more than willing to open our doors and let you in if you do things the right way. Now, something that hits kind of close to home, speaking of our area, in San Diego, specifically in Escondido, I believe, there was a man who has what's called the Trump House. This is on national news, and it actually was covered even by Not the Beam. There's called the Trump House, and you can see it on Not the Beam if you're interested. But he is a man who has flags everywhere. And if anyone's driven through that area, if you get lucky, you might be able to spot the thing. It's actually quite a thing. But he's got flags everywhere all over his house. Like, he's very, very much into Trump and supporting him. And apparently a 32-year-old man beat him up. And this is a day or two ago. Beat him up. And he's fighting for his life in the hospital and probably will not make it. They're expecting him to die of his wounds. And I will say, I was actually rather impressed by the responses online. I saw a lot of responses online of people who are saying, I completely against Trump. I completely hated his house, but he should never have been beat up or hurt. And I was impressed. I didn't think it would happen. Now, maybe it's because it's a local area and people kind of knew him, vaguely, or at least, he was kooky, so everyone kind of, knew that. But the fact that someone thought it was worth beating him up and killing him, and again, I'm mentioning this because I should add this caveat that they don't 100% know that it was politically motivated. And this one, it might not be. The guy was mentally unstable, but it does seem very, very, very coincidental that this guy decided to pick him to kill. So we'll find out. And then as a last story before we go into our weekend, and this is kind of a thing to memorialize a lot of things. Now I got a text today from a good friend of mine, and he included in there his friend that he will never let die for Memorial Day because he died in the line of duty. And it was a Marine who was a comrade of his in arms. And so he always, every Memorial Day, will send out this text about him. And it reminds everyone that knows him about this guy. Now, I say that because it's important that we recognize and have time of memorial and time of reflection, and that we actually show that we truly care and desire to have those connections, especially in a world that's going more towards AI. And this is where things impact you. We have a phenomenal DNI. We had a phenomenal DNI. And that's Tulsi Gabbard. She was amazing. I really like Tulsi Gabbard. I think she did an amazing job coming from the left into, I'm not going to say real conservative, because I don't think she's that super conservative, but at least not being a Democrat. She's no longer a Democrat. Now, apparently she's stepping down, and I looked into the story because I wanted to make sure, because there was a lot of stuff coming out after Tulsi, and people were trying to say that the CIA was raiding her and all this stupid stuff. It just was such a weird time. And I thought, okay, what is she stepping down because she's tired of all the nonsense? No. It's actually sadder than that. Apparently, she's told everyone that she's resigning because she's going to help her husband fight a rare and aggressive type of bone cancer. They have not been married long. Apparently, she posted on their 7th anniversary a video of their wedding day, and that was in 2022, so they were only having 7 years of marriage at that point. So 11 years now of marriage. So very, very sad. Very sad that she's doing that. And she said in her post that she put a letter of resignation to Trump. It was very beautiful. She said, "Dear Mr. President, I am deeply grateful for the trust you placed in me and the opportunity to lead the office of the Director of National Intelligence for the last year and a half. Unfortunately, I must submit my resignation effective June 30th, 2026. My husband, Abraham, has recently been diagnosed with an extremely rare form of bone cancer. He faces major challenges in the coming weeks and months, and at this time, I must step away from public service to be by his side and fully support him through this battle. Abraham has been my rock throughout our 11 years of marriage, standing steadfast throughout my deployment to East Africa, on a joint special operations missions, multiple political campaigns, and now my service in this role. His strength and love have sustained me through every challenge. I cannot in good conscience ask him to face the fight alone while I continue in this demanding and time-consuming position. While we have made significant progress at the DNI, say ODNI, so Office of Director of National Intelligence, advancing unprecedented transparency and restoring integrity to the intelligence community, I recognize there is still important work to be done, and I am fully committed to ensuring a smooth and thorough transition over the coming weeks so that you and your team experience no disruption in leadership or momentum. Thank you for your understanding during this deeply personal and difficult time for our family, and I'll remain forever grateful to you and the American people for the profound honor of serving our nation as DNI. With love and aloha, Tulsi Gabbard. Now, Tulsi Gabbard, again, has done an amazing job with what she's been doing. And I will give the one thing is she's one of the classiest people they have in the administration, and you don't hear a lot about her, which is what you want. Someone doing their job and not a lot of scandals, not a lot of craziness going on, and that's just phenomenal. And we should pray for her and her husband during this time. I believe I don't think they're Christian, so just pray for them and pray that God can change their heart. But it's a rough time. It's a rough time, and it gives you a reminder too that sometimes we get so wrapped around what people are saying, and even if you're wrapped around a podcaster or whatever else, hopefully you're wrapped around this podcaster, enthralled. But even in those moments, that there's times when we need to pull back and really remember how much we're spending time with our family and how much we're spending time with the things that matter and who matters, and making an impact in their lives and their little lives sometimes for the children and big lives for those that are your spouses. Make sure that you're there for them when they need you. That's the most important thing. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that helps you. It gives you encouragement when it comes to Trump, that the Republican Party isn't falling down the Nick Fuentes route, and that we can understand that there is a huge help going in with the immigration, with the 82 people going in, and then understanding that we ourselves have to push to make sure that it is not a negative place in this world when it comes to people's views. Like, I understand people have different views. You can argue with them, you can disagree with them, all that. But don't beat them up. And when someone is beat up or someone does something wrong, then we got to make sure that we meet it with class and dignity, just like I saw a lot of people, even on the left, doing over this guy who was fatally beaten for loving Trump. And now, Tulsi and her family setting a great example of what is the most important in your life. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel. I appreciate it, and I would like to reach more and more people, so I'll need your help with that. Thank you.